And that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages that we should be up there by this point in time. If we're not, well, yeah, you can't hear this over there, but if you want to let us know, you can hear us coming through loud and clear. You can, of course, leave your comments over there, or on, like, the subject we're discussing today. You can take those comments through there over on, again, Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk. Quite the jam-packed show here for you today, of course, delving into some of those serious and ongoing issues affecting us here in the borderland and beyond here, including with more criminal cases being dismissed here in El Paso and in the magistrate courts here, and what that means for those ongoing situations involving the district attorney's office and timelines there. We'll certainly delve into that here. At least one example of a bailout happening on El Paso's road here today, and the frequency we're seeing of those and what that might mean for what's coming up here as the CBP and other information keeps going on, including their Se Busca Información campaign coming out from CBP. But then also our guest today going to be speaking with Ryan Milkey, get the title correct here, Director of Public Affairs, and John Law, Chief Strategy Officer, both with University Medical Center, talking about the many important aspects of that proposed certificates of obligation bond, and getting to at least some of the questions that y'all have brought up in our discussions on this issue here. So that'll be our interview here today. So again, you're locked in for another jam-packed couple hours, because there's even more than that percolating. Just a couple things we'll hopefully get to is some talk about the gubernatorial debate here in Texas being confirmed now, and what is being hoped to come by next, but a lot more to come there. Make no mistake. And Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, Monica Cervantes, and Ion Grimm leaving their comments, or at least dropping those likes and reacts over on the social media so far here, and a whole lot more that we'll get to. Those, again, that's one of the better ways you can do so throughout the show, is by, again, dropping your reacts if you want to, or just your comments over there, if you can do so safely, of course. Don't be driving with your knees while typing away on your cell phone here. Don't worry. I mean, we talk about serious things, but just because you can't leave a comment won't be a life or death kind of situation here. So a couple of those situations going on kind of right bit before the show here, in some cases. Again, it was actually, this one actually Wednesday morning, so not trying to hype it up by any means, but that there was at least 10 that were stopped near I-10. 10 migrants in U.S. illegally were captured along Interstate 10 in El Paso. Again, this being reported on by our news partners there at KFOX 14. That Texas DPS troopers in our area as part of Operation Lone Star, which is in and of itself kind of an interesting development, since that had not been as much clear. But of course, DPS has the right to work particularly along any state right of way anywhere within the state of Texas. So I guess it was never particularly out of the question, but given some of those other conversations we've been having about what the city and other joint agencies have been doing in regards to Operation Lone Star in our area, this comes at a very interesting time here. But the sum total of what was happening there is that the state trooper tried to pull over a driver for speeding, but then ended up pulling over, but then the driver and several people from the van ended up bolting from the van, ultimately ended up being captured there. And if you look at it, it looks like, if I'm not too... I'm not going to try and guess at the roadway here, but they do have the picture up of one of the elevated roadways. They are off of I-10 in the background there, so it might be... If it looks like Concordia in the background here, I'm going to say this is towards central El Paso. So, right before the Piedras exit here. So that's where they did eventually stop them. So this, again, not necessarily being called this exactly by CBP, but this does sound exceptionally similar to, again, that phenomenon that has been described other places anyway, of bailouts, essentially, of these, I guess, less substantive individually smuggling attempts happening, where once there is opposition, law enforcement in this case, to that attempt, there is a pullover, the vehicle abandoned, and the scattering of whomever was inside of the vehicle. That, of course, we've talked about in other circumstances in other parts of the state and other parts of particularly along the border here. But the fact that these incidents seem to be happening, at least coming to the forefront more often here. I am sure there's always been a level of this activity, if not exactly this response happening in our area, but much like the stash houses that we've also been talking about more recently and with greater frequency recently, there's definitely been a lot of enforcement going on, including the parts of Operation Lone Star and all of that. But really, when it comes down to it, I'm wondering if there has been more of a sea change, even from the smuggling side of things, ever since what happened in the outskirts of San Antonio there with those 50 plus left to die and did end up die with more on death's door, frankly. What happened there in the back of that abandoned trailer. Wondering if that kind of attempt is being abandoned here. Kathy Codry saying over on the YouTube page, secure the damn border here. Not going to disagree with that sentiment, because the idea of this being able to happen and continuing to do so here, it does lead to several questions about, how did this crossing occur? How did the people make their way here? And then how was it even, picked up? Like, what's been going on with this? What are the ways it's happening, and what can be done in order to, work to put a stop to it? Because as much as there is a level of concern with illegal immigration, any kind of smuggling attempts overall that are, I definitely have concerns there. The fact that this is now beyond even just the core kind of crime there, affecting things like public safety, because again, hitting way too close for comfort, even just personally here, the fact that a building across the street from us got hit by in a ditching attempt, in a bailout attempt, is just concerning. So if this is happening on the roadways here in El Paso, I'm not going to say that El Paso drivers were the best to begin with, but this just adds a whole nother level to it now, doesn't it? So the fact that this is going on, and the fact that we're seeing maybe some facets of Operation Lone Star happening in our area out of this, very interesting to know. Again, under maybe not the major point of this story here, but one of the ones I'm paying the most attention to, I will say that, because if that is indeed the case, that would be, we just haven't talked about it much. Hasn't been much evident here. A lot of the focus on Operation Lone Star, particularly when we're talking about, say, before the recent weeks, the National Guard, or the State Guard, rather, deployments happening along with it, hadn't really been seen here. So this might be a larger part of it as well. John Browson bringing up as well, Border Patrol stopped 4 vehicles and 30 in eastern New Mexico yesterday here. RJ adding for the title and the perspective series here. I guess in this case, if no one was injured, I'll take it the tongue-in-cheek you intended here, saying another episode of Run Coyote Run. Tonight's episode, they didn't crash here. So again, I don't no note of there being anyone injured as a part of this here. Those that were captured and not one was charged, the unidentified driver facing charges of human smuggling. The rest of the passengers of the vehicle turned over to Border Patrol for processing, according to Texas DPS on this. So the frequency of these, I guess, is what's really concerning here, as I think many people would share the level of soon here. Talking is saying scattering is doing the cucaracha. I think you're referring to the dance there. In any case, the fact that this keeps happening in the area definitely adds a level of concern, but also the fact that we might be seeing more of the effect of Operation Lone Star in our area. I don't know. I have not had a necessarily good handle on all of the Texas DPS state troopers' efforts in our area here, but just anecdotally speaking, it seems to come in waves. And after there has been a big reason for enforcement to step up in the region, usually after there has been some big event happening. And of course, recently we've had the increasing city response, them doing their own level of busing, and particularly in conjunction with parts of Operation Lone Star that is causing its own controversy. The last time that I can really recall this was actually right after the Pope was in Juarez, more than 5-6 years ago. When actually was that day? Was that 2017? In any case, well, no, it was 2016 at least, probably like 2015. Let me look it up here real quick, because there was that response, and the amount of law enforcement that was concentrated in South El Paso between the border and Paisano was essentially, south of Paisano was an armed camp. You literally couldn't cross into it. For us to get to where we ended up being stationed to do our coverage of the Pope, doing his speech at El Puente and things like that, we had to go through bomb-sniffing dogs, pre-positioned vehicles. It was nuts. And of course, there was a Texas DPS part of the response there. And it seemed like in the aftermath of that, there was a lot more state troopers along. Of course, they have full right to be on state highways and rights of way. But the fact that they hadn't been previously, it was much noted by me and others here. So I'm wondering, would be a part of it. Lorenzo Colon asking, Operation Lone Star, the first time I've heard of it. What is it? Who launched it? Well, that is the overarching program that pretty much all of the state-level border security efforts done by Governor Greg Abbott falls under the umbrella of, including the movement of some of the state guard to doing different things, including doing some border enforcement here, involving DPS, involving... Honestly, it's a whole show to just describe what a part of it is here, but that's why it is very interesting, given how it has not really been a facet in our area, particularly that it is now being cited specifically as why this stop happened. So I'm wondering if we'll be hearing more about that. So decently good question. Appreciate the comment there. As we also have Ida Beza Gardner joining us over on the social media. Hello to you as well. That's going to take us through that first break of the hour here right now. Again, jam-packed show for you. Make no mistake, getting into another major local story. The continuing conversation, debate, petitions, all the stuff going on with the county hospital districts, maybe better known as UMC, University Medical Center, certificate of obligation bond request that is going on. We delve into the specifics and get some of those questions answered involving representatives from UMC. Again, going to be talking with Ryan Milkey, Director of Public Affairs, and John Law, Chief Strategy Officer with UMC. And so we'll be talking with them about that in this next segment. So stay tuned for more of that and everything we do here, including, of course, the comments here on Talk El Paso. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot more to come here, so stay tuned for more after this break. Again, Talk El Paso, airing live 4 to 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Back after this break with more. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Police on the scene of a crash Lee Trevino northbound at the 10 Gateway. It's affecting Gateway West traffic, Lee Trevino exit ramp, and both directions on Lee Trevino at the 10 Gateway. 10 westbound at Vinton, a stalled truck is blocking a very thin right shoulder. Police on the scene of another crash, Zaragoza northbound at Montana. There's a crash Alameda Avenue outside the loop before Rio Vista Road. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Samuel Colt was an American inventor, industrialist, and businessman who brought us the gun that won the West, the revolver. Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You wash your hands and brush your teeth, but what about your nose? How do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage pulls saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, dirt, and germs, and it's why nose cleaning is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. People try Navage for lots of reasons: sinusitis, allergies, snoring, things that make it hard to breathe through your nose. But over time, they also find that cleaning their nose makes them feel better, a lot better. Nearly 3 million Navage users have written more than 100,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, saying things like, best product I've ever used, and amazing, I love my Navage. That's because Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less. But the biggest payoff is improved health. Here's the key point. Navage is good personal hygiene, and it's going to help you stay healthier. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, Target, and online. Navage, Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. If you've enjoyed our incredible public lands throughout the country this summer, show some love for these spaces and participate in a volunteer cleanup event on National Public Lands Day in your area. National Public Lands Day is the nation's largest single-day volunteer event for public lands and is on September 24th. Learn more and find an event near you at nefusa.org/NPLD. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Now is the time to diversify your investments with gold and silver to protect your retirement. Hi, it's Lisa Booth for Bishop Gold Group. Bishop Gold Group sells physical gold and silver delivered to your door or put directly in your IRA. Call Bishop Gold Group and tell them Lisa Booth sent you to receive a silver gift on your first order. Dial pound 250 from your mobile phone and mention keyword Bishop Gold or go to bishopgoldgroup.com. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dialed text message from Bishop Gold Group.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at ktsmradio.com. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk, whatever your preferred method is. You can find us, see the show, and comment on it if you so choose so. But in the meantime, right now, joining us, we do have Ryan Mielke, the Director of Public Affairs, and John Law, Chief Strategy Officer for University Medical Center. Thank you all very much for joining us today.
Happy to be here, Andrew. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely happy to have you all on, because there's been a lot of discussion, of course, going on in the community at large, and even on this program, about some major things and some major proposals that have been put forth that we are in that, again, countdown to, with some specific action going to be coming before county commissioners here, not quite halfway through this coming month. So coming up here very shortly. But for anyone who may not be familiar with the topics we are talking about, or may have very vaguely heard the phrase of University Medical Center, or more specifically the El Paso County Hospital District, and the certificates of obligation bond that has been being proposed, what are some of the very basics that you want people to know about that?
Well, Andrew, thanks again for making time for us today. I think that there's a couple points that are kind of key to the overall request. And one is that we are facing critical capacity challenges. Just to give you an example, we have 60 critical care beds in the hospital. For the last 2 months, we've had at or above 70 patients for these 60 beds. And so this is having an effect on our operations. We tend to be holding a lot of patients in the emergency department. And so this request is in response to some critical needs. I think the other factor to keep in mind is that we work very closely with Texas Tech. We're very proud to have this partnership, and most of their residents and medical students, their hands-on training happens in our hospital. So the extent to which we have facilities to support this education and training is also the extent to which we have a pipeline for new physicians coming into the community.
So, of course, a lot of other things people may have heard about this is the number that has been getting discussed here. The roughly $345 million that is being sought again approval will be coming before County Commissioners Court here. September 12th is the exact hearing date, as has been, of course, published here. So that is, of course, a sizable number here. And El Paso has not been exactly a stranger to large amounts of public spending like this, numbering the hundreds of millions of dollars here. So why this amount, and why now?
Well, I mean, all of the projects have been identified through a strategic planning process that goes back several years. In fact, we were really looking at implementing these projects back in late 2019, early 2020. And in March of 2020, of course, is when the pandemic started. As we hit that time frame, we were having a lot of dialogue with our county commissioners and really felt like that wasn't the right time to go forward. People were losing their jobs. There was a lot of uncertainty. It didn't seem like a right time. So now that the pandemic is starting to ease up, we're ready to go, and these projects, the need for them has only increased.
So let's break down some of the projects that are being discussed here. You all do have a website, along with the many other community outreach things that you all are doing. One good clearinghouse for all this information is capacityforcare.com, a website done here by, again, the El Paso County Hospital District, done about the bond request and some of the numbers here. Again, that $345.7 million, to be a little bit more exact, of the initial request here. And you put it forth in kind of 5 major categories: expansion of critical care beds, like you mentioned there, surgery capacity, care expansion, neighborhood health and urgent care center, children's inpatient surgery and emergency department, and comprehensive cancer centers here. So what's the kind of rough breakdown between all of this? Is it pretty evenly spread across all of them, or are there more, substantive projects in some of them than others?
I'd say they're all very important projects, and they
Sure.
provide different functions to our healthcare system. And I'd be happy to talk about them specifically. Just let me know where you want to start.
Okay, so let's go with the one that you mentioned there already, the expansion of the critical care beds. I think people may have a concept that, a hospital, big building has a lot of rooms in it here, but you're talking about one very specific category of them, about, again, those critical care beds. So what are we talking about there, what the need is, and how that money would be applied?
Yeah, what we're talking about is what you often hear as an intensive care bed or an intensive care unit. And we also have specific units for cardiac patients or neurological patients. And essentially, we would be adding 23 of these beds to the hospital. And I already mentioned that we are beyond our numbers at this point. This was the same during the pandemic, but of course we recognize that was a unique situation. But now that we're sort of back in, a little more regular time of healthcare provision, we're still seeing high numbers, and it's concerning because ultimately the patients end up staying in our emergency department, which is where we've been holding maybe 20 to 30 patients a day in the emergency department. And what's problematic there is at some point we have to be, and we want to avoid it, is not be able to accept new patients. And what I have learned over the last 3 months, I didn't even realize this before we started researching this, about 47% of our trauma cases we see here at UMC come from other hospitals. So it could be other hospitals in El Paso or hospitals in southern New Mexico. And if we're at capacity and we need to not see new patients, it's the transfers that are probably the most likely group that we would start with.
Again, joining us right now, that's John Law, Chief Strategy Officer. Also on the line with us here, Ryan Mielke, Director of Public Affairs, both with University Medical Center. Again, you want to find what we're talking about here, talking about that, again, roughly $345 million certificate of obligation bond that has been proposed, with a vote coming up here, their description, and some of the details we're discussing here. The website to find that, capacityforcare.com. That's capacity, FOR, care.com, to find that information here. So, you said that all the projects and all the major categories we're talking about here all have certainly a level of importance. I don't think anyone disputes that here. But when it comes to, I guess, the bulk of the actual funding here, how would you categorize that as being spread between these, again, major parts of the project as described?
I don't know that it's distributed. It's not, 20% each,
Okay.
but it's fairly well distributed, I would say. I think one of the projects that perhaps is a little bit larger is the Cancer Center in terms of the actual dollars for the project, but the funds are pretty evenly spread across the 5 categories.
So specifically on the cancer care, then, that is something that we have been having some discussion on when it comes to the need for that in the area, or what there has been a lack of in any case. So when it comes to specifically those types of services, what are some of the issues that you all are encountering that is then leading to the wanting to be using these funds?
Well, I think the big thing is that when you look at cancer care, I don't know about you, Andrew, but I can easily think of about 5 people that I know that are leaving the community to get cancer treatment. Often they're going to Houston to MD Anderson, or they're going to the Phoenix area and the Mayo Clinic. And this is symptomatic in that El Paso does not have a robust cancer treatment infrastructure, and we work with a national planning firm that works with hospitals around the country, and they've been telling us for over 5 years that cancer treatment is one of the largest weaknesses in El Paso's healthcare infrastructure.
And then also on the neighborhood health and urgent care centers, people may be somewhat familiar, if they've been paying attention to it anyway, to the regional clinics that University Medical Center has been seeing the expansion of over a number of years, even prior to the pandemic, of course. Would this be a continuation of that effort, or something different?
No, it would be similar. Anybody that's been to our neighborhood health centers, there's one on Joe Battle. We have another one on our Craft. We also have one in the Mission Valley, and then a 4th one out in Fabens. But we built the two on the east and west side are newer, and the clinic that we would build would be in the area of UMC, and would be similar to the two clinics on each side of town. These clinics have pharmacy, they have laboratory, they have imaging capacity, primary care, secondary care. You can get about 80% of your health care at this one location, and that's really what's convenient for our patients and for the community.
Of course, out on your website, you have over there, again, capacityforcare.com, do have some more of the facts, figures, and some of the particularly taxpayers' amounts there that are being expected, but also under the FAQs here. One of the major questions that, of course, keeps coming up onto this thing, why do this specifically as this certificate of obligation type bond and not a general obligation bond? One of the major, of course, biggest differences that people would see besides the actual funding being spent would be how they have their input on it. As it is currently slated, this will come up before a vote before County Commissioners Court, but people have been asking why not put this on a ballot as other, say, school board bonds have been, or previous hospital-involved care, such as with El Paso Children's Hospital, or the creation of it anyway, was put on a bond previously. What is some of the reasoning or things that you're talking about on that level?
I think one reason is the urgency of the projects, and as I said before, we were really looking at moving on these projects back in 2020, and so the problems that we're seeing are only exacerbated 2 years later. And I think secondly, at this point, the commissioners, when we met with them back on June 27th, set the date for their decision on this for September 12th, which is past the filing dates for a fall election. So at this point, if we do go to an election, which is still a possibility, we'll go to an election next May, and with rising interest rates and inflation, our financial analysts, we work with a group called Hilltop Securities, and they estimate the cost would be about $33 million more to the taxpayer if we need to hold off until next spring.
Again, that's John Law, Chief Strategy Officer. Also joining us on the line here is Ryan Mielke, Director of Public Affairs, both with University Medical Center, again, talking about some of the specifics that they are putting forth on this proposed certificate of obligation bond. Again, the information we're referring to here in part, you can find over at capacityforcare.com. That's capacity, FOR, care.com. Also, a lot of reporting that's come out from our news partners over at KFOX 14. Find some of those and many of the other issues being discussed here over on their website at kfox14.com. We got to take that next break right now, but coming out of this break, we'll like to talk with y'all a little bit further about some of the other questions that have come up about this, and particularly what is going on in the community, that level of discussion here. So we'll be back with that more after this break, here with more Talk El Paso on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Miraca Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. A magistrate judge in El Paso County has dismissed an additional 142 criminal cases. The cases were dismissed before 11 this morning at the referral court at the county courthouse. The cases dismissed are part of the 616 criminal cases filed to be dismissed last week by public defender Kelly Childress. The cases range from driving under the influence, possession of marijuana, and assault. KFOX 14 obtained the court docket that included a case involving an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon charge, and the other suspect was charged with terroristic threat causing fear of serious bodily injury, both dismissed. And state authorities stopped the human smuggling attempt along I-10 yesterday morning. The Texas Department of Public Safety, working Operation Lone Star, tried to stop the speeding driver along I-10 near the Piedras exit just before 7 a.m. When the van did pull over, several people ran from the vehicle, including the driver. Authorities were able to capture the driver and 10 migrants in the country illegally. I'm Miraca Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Police on the scene of an injury accident that's blocking the right lane, Trowbridge Drive at Gateway North. Take Montana Avenue or Reynolds instead. I-10 westbound at Sunland Park. Police responding to a crash there. An injury accident, Dyer southbound after Sanders. Take Diana Drive as an alternate. And Edgemere Boulevard eastbound before Tierra Este. A crash with injuries. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
After a few cloudy days with on and off rain, a change in our weather pattern will bring slightly drier days. Expect a mostly cloudy sky tonight with a few isolated showers and cooler overnight lows as they drop into the middle to upper 60s by tomorrow morning. Coming up tonight, we'll take a look at the weekend forecast. Plus, we'll talk about the return of 90-degree temperatures. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. This Labor Day, save $50 on a Lowe's exclusive Charbroil Performance Series 4-burner gas grill, just $299. Plus, get 3 1-cubic foot bags of Stay Green Garden Soil for just $10. Offer valid through 9/7 while supplies last. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Get ready for the smartest bundle in streaming. 6 streaming services for the intellectually curious, featuring Curiosity Stream with the best collection of documentary films and TV shows, Psalm TV, and great stories from the world of wine, Tastemade for the fun side of food and travel, Topic with the best thrillers and crime stories, and so much more. From nature to history, technology to food, mystery to adventure. Get 6 streaming services for one low price at less than $6 a month. It's the best deal in streaming. Learn more and sign up now at smartbundle.com.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland. Whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development, the El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Circle K Fuel Day is coming with 40 cents off each gallon of gas between 4 and 7 p.m. on September 1st. Plus, every participating location will also hand out 500 fuel discount cards for 20 cents off per gallon of gas throughout September. Find your participating Circle K at CircleK.com.
Wendy's Biggie Bag is still just $5. Get a double stack junior bacon cheeseburger or crispy chicken BLT plus 4-piece nugs, small fries, and a small drink. Grab your bag at Wendy's today. Includes choice of double stack JBC or crispy chicken BLT with 4-piece nugs, small drink, and fries. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii. This report is sponsored by Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour. And always online at KTSMradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media channels we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in there, as I'm sure we have already through this point in the hour. We'll get to more of those here shortly. But again, joining us here on the phone, we do have Ryan Milkey, Director of Public Affairs, and John Law, Chief Strategy Officer, both with University Medical Center. Thank you all for sticking around with us here today.
You bet.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely happy to talk with y'all, and good afternoon to y'all as well, because talking about these major issues, this has been quite the recurring topic and of interest to our audience at the very least here. Again, discussing that, again, roughly $345 million bond request or certificates of obligation that is going to be going forth that vote before County Commissioners Court here on September 12th. Here again, the website that you all have for the clearinghouse of information that you all are putting out, capacityforcare.com. But of course, there has been a lot of response, communication, and even now petitions, of course, being circulated around related to this issue. One of the ones that we have had some previous discussion about here specifically cites a chapter of the Texas Local Government Code that would then essentially require this to be put on the ballot, kind of as we discussed here. So that those, again, we got some examples of them here, such as El Paso petition, elpasopetition.com, those kind of things here. Those petitions, again, specifically are more about how this will be handled and put onto the ballot, but there is, of course, a lot of language on it that is specifically opposing property tax increases and parts of that. So how do you all respond to these petitions, and particularly what they are saying about what the costs of this are going to be?
I think the biggest issue, Andrew, is that the petitions, and I think there's two different ones. They state that your taxes will increase overall by 22%. I think one of them says 21%, one says 22%. And the problem with these is that this is really disinformation. Overall, the individual's tax bill will only increase it'll be less than 2% or 1.8%. So that's the one concern is that there's sort of a misinformation effort associated with these petitions that could be scaring some of the community members, and it's not exactly true.
One example I do have here in front of me got in from the El Paso petition effort that is submitted to a P.O. box here. The front of the envelope says, for those who can't see over on Radioland, of course, urgent notice, your county tax bill is set to increase by 22% without your immediate action. So that's what you're responding to specifically there.
Yeah, and I think the one other point, and Ryan, I'll throw it to you here in a second, but I think the other piece is that these petitions are not always transparent as to who is even leading this effort. And I do think the public would also benefit from that level of transparency to say, okay, who's leading each of these petition efforts?
And Ryan, you wanted to say something?
Well, yeah, no, I think as far as the messages that they're sending out to these elderly folks who are in fixed incomes, I think is wrong, and it's unfair. I mean, nobody wants to be taxed any more than we already are. No, we understand that. Everybody understands it. None of us at UMC want to be taxed additionally. However, when you try to scare people with wrong information into signing something, that is something that is it's just hurtful. And I have relatives who receive those messages, and I had to go through lengthy explanations trying to help them understand that information that they're receiving in their mailbox to sign these petitions is completely erroneous. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do with these presentations when we get out into the community is help people understand these are the facts. We have this site that says these are the facts. We are doing media interviews to tell you these are the facts. We have social media messages telling you these are the facts. Yet people respond to fear very easily. And I think those who are behind these petitions, who we don't really know who quite they are being successful at. Yet people are signing their petitions with that wrong information.
So with that, speaking with some of the organizers of the petitions, essentially their contention has been that it's not a 22% overall increase, but of the slice of the pie of the tax dollars, so to speak, that does come from the county hospital district. That will increase 22%. But beyond that, into the actual then core idea of the petitions here, again, the way they're specifically worded here, top there, we oppose the proposed property tax increase for debt without a public vote, going again to that idea of this being either approved by Commissioner's Court or then going onto the ballot. Beyond the issue of the, again, delay that you mentioned, causing that, as you all estimate, roughly $33 million extra for this whole bucket of projects that we are talking about for every part of the bond here. I mean, is there any other, beyond that aspect of this, any other contention you all have about wanting this to go onto the ballot that way?
Well, if I could, though, Andrew, kind of coming back to the total cost, I think one other piece that the taxpayer deserves to know is that over the last year and on Monday, the Commissioner's Court approved our annual tax rate for UMC. In both last year and this year, we've gone to the no new revenue rate. So what that essentially means is that we will be decreasing everyone's tax rate in proportion to valuation increases, which will keep the total tax received by UMC fairly stable and without much change. And so we have seen our tax rate go down over 2 years, which I think is also a valuable thing for the taxpayer to know.
Again, if you're just joining us, guess right now, that right there is John Law, Chief Strategy Officer. Also on the line there, Ryan Milkey, Director of Public Affairs, both with University Medical Center. Again, talking about that roughly $345.7 to be exact, $1 million certificates of obligation bond proposal that will be coming before Commissioner's Court. Again, you want to see some of the information being put out by University Medical Center. You can find that website, capacityforcare.com. Again, capacityforcare.com, where that is being put out here. So some of the more central issues beyond the petitions and what the actual things coming from this would be. Of course, the total amount that is being proposed here under the actual filing here is that this could be up to $400 million would be the cap on this level of projects, again, if proposed here. But some of the questions, kind of what you alluded to a little bit earlier there, John, was that specifically on, or actually Ryan, you yourself as well, on the taxing of not wanting to be taxed, and the way that you all, and this was delayed in order to kind of get through the pandemic period. A lot of people are still saying, a lot of response we're getting anyway, comes along the lines of, I mean, we are still in that technical recession, and that we have a lot of issues with jobs, job markets, people earning income, so that this still doesn't feel the right time in order to see a major public funds expenditure. How do you all respond to that?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. One is the total amount of the bond will not be up to $400 million. It'll be the 345.7 that is on our website and that you mentioned before. The $400 million was an amount that our board of managers authorized us to go discuss up to that amount with the county commissioners. And we did that in case the county commissioners had something that they want to add, which it doesn't appear that they do. So it should be 345.7. I'm not expecting it to be higher.
Okay.
And I think the kind of getting back to your question, though, is we recognize it's a difficult time and that there's people being challenged by gas prices and by other forms of inflation. We held off a couple years ago for another challenge, and our concern is that if we continue to delay, at some point we could become the crisis ourselves. And so, there's likely a challenge that we're going to see in the future. We just don't know what it is yet.
A couple other major points, again, being brought up by listeners to our program here have been along the lines of essentially concern about this being, of course, a publicly supported hospital. The tax rate that you mentioned there is a part of what directly comes out of property taxes every year. And of course, this certificate of obligation, however it moves forward, if again approved, would have its essentially own tax rate associated with it. But that essentially we are seeing public funds going towards something that private industry is involved in as well. So there's been a level of concern about publicly supporting something that is then maybe stifling competition, so to say. To that general concept of, again, public funds and the public hospital and the county hospital district, how do you all address that?
Well, one of our major mission points is to provide care to everyone, regardless of insurance status. And we typically provide about $200 million of care, and that's the cost of the care for people that are uninsured or who are unable to pay for their care. From our annual tax rate that we receive, that we typically receive about $100 million. So there's another $100 million each year that we need to find a way to pay for that cost, and that's something we do annually. It's part of our mission. We're very, very happy to do it. So what we're looking at is that for our model to work and not increase the burden on the taxpayer further, we do have to have a balance between patients who can pay and patients who can't, and that balance is part of what makes UMC successful.
On that point, and then on the uncompensated care, as you were kind of referring to, there has been a contentious issue on its own, as you mentioned, numbering in the hundreds of millions of dollars. There's been a lot of concern expressed, again, to me and on this program about how that is being formulated, where that is coming from, but also concerns that certain, say, recent immigration issues that we have been seeing, and particularly with some of the crises that are happening in our area, is directly affecting this, and this is more or less geared towards it, this bond and these certificates of obligation. How do you all respond to that?
Well, of those that receive care that are uninsured, about 90% of those have an El Paso address. So, I mean, and I'm not naive to think that there may be some folks that, are undocumented that have an El Paso address, but this says to me it's people that are from the region and live in the region. We do have cases where the Border Patrol brings to us patients, and we do provide care to those patients. But we go back to Homeland Security and request reimbursement for that care. And we have received it. We'd like to be paid at a higher rate, but that's always a challenge that we work with the federal government to resolve. And we also are collaborating with Congresswoman Escobar, who's been helping us navigate the federal system.
Ryan, was there something you wanted to add there?
No, I was just going to say that when it comes to, and I was going to give you the 90 and 10% equation as well with the undocumented folks who are coming to us, but it's really important for us to dispel this myth because, to be honest with you, Andrew, we're running into that same question at our community meetings, and it's unfortunate that people have they labor under the belief that somehow that is the entire quantity of our uncompensated care goes to folks who are migrants coming into the area, and that is just not the case. The majority, vast majority, 90% majority of those who we provide that care to have El Paso residents.
And let's keep in mind that 25% of our community members don't have insurance. So there's a large group within the El Paso community that, if they have need for hospitalization or they have a need for an emergency department, they don't have insurance coverage at least. And likely they don't have the ability to pay for, especially an inpatient stay.
Again, that's John Law, Chief Strategy Officer, also there on the line. Ryan Milkey, Director of Public Affairs, both with University Medical Center. Again, talking about all the specifics and some of y'all's question coming up with that certificate of obligation bond that will, again, be going before that vote, before El Paso County Commissioner's Court, coming up this September 12th. So a little bit of a week and a half more of when we are going to be airing this from when we're recording it as well. So again, Ryan and John, thank you very much for talking to us about many of these different aspects, issues, and concerns that are all baked into this here today.
All right. Thank you much, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right. Thank you all very much here. We're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we will get to a little bit further into some of these comments, questions, and of course, open up that phone line. So if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On Trowbridge Drive at Gateway North, an accident blocking the right lane with police on the scene. Take Montana Avenue or Reynolds as alternates there. A lot of congestion on Edgemere Boulevard eastbound before Tierra Este due to a crash with injuries there. Take Rich Beam or RC Poe Road to get around it. And an injury accident Dyer southbound after Sanders. Take Diana or Wren Avenue instead. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving at mad.org.
Have you or someone you know been impacted by a drunk or drugged driving crash? MAD is here to help. At MAD, they provide services at no cost for the victims, like emotional, judicial, and access to financial support. Call 1-877-MAD-HELP.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is a leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Hi, this is U.S. Congressman Tony Gonzalez. Are you paying more for just about everything? I know I am. Inflation is costing Texas families thousands of dollars more for everyday goods like groceries. That's why in Congress, I'm working against reckless government spending to help put a stop to skyrocketing inflation. If you have any questions for me about my work to combat inflation, please do not hesitate to reach out at 210-806-9920 or online at gonzalez.house.gov.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. The Settlement Specialist, LLC, is responsible for the content of this ad. Attention. This is an important message for anyone that spent time at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. If you or a family member lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune at any time between August 1st, 1953 and December 31st, 1987 and developed a serious health condition, you may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Call 800-517-1246 now to see if you qualify. That's right. Studies have found the water at Camp Lejeune was contaminated with toxic chemicals for decades, causing serious health conditions such as bladder, breast, or kidney cancer, Parkinson's, leukemia, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Congress has approved and President Biden has signed a new law allowing anyone that spent time at the base affected by injury to seek the justice they deserve. Billions of dollars have been set aside by the government to compensate victims. If you or a family member lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune during this time and developed a serious health condition, you may be entitled to significant cash compensation even if you were denied a disability claim in the past. Call 800-517-1246 now to see if you qualify. Hurry, time is limited. Call 800-517-1246. That's 800-517-1246. 800-517-1246.
It can happen easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Summer days getting shorter and business to-do lists getting longer? You need Indeed. Their all-in-one hiring solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates all in one place. Sponsor your first job and get hiring today by visiting Indeed.com/credit.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments have come through there. Make no mistake. I've been trying to pop some up during the course of that interview. Again, thank you to our guests here. We did pre-record that interview yesterday just for scheduling here, but many of the things still very relevant here. Try to get some of those questions that y'all have been bringing up here, and y'all dropped a few more, so we'll be seeing about a follow-up potentially here. But again, thanks again to Ryan Milkey, Director of Public Affairs, and John Lott, Chief Strategy Officer, both with UMC, for speaking with us and digging into some of these issues here. Just some of the comments coming in here. Maria Coleman, Kathy Codry, EFR, RJ, Larry Condra, I think I'm saying that right, and more, John Brazelton, a lot of comments coming in there about property values, taxation, the points being made there. So we tried to delve into as many of them as we could, at least the way y'all were talking about it here, and the questions that have come up previously. But we'll, of course, continue that discussion here. And tell you what, we ran a little bit long with our timing on some of this, so we're already in time for that next hour right now. So we're going to go ahead and take that top of the hour news break. If you're on the phone line, because we also have that open as well, stay there. If you want to get on, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Delving into some more of those comments here because, of course, for our radio audience, we want to make sure you hear what was being asked and some of the points being made, as well as taking those phone calls. So again, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break in the top of the hour news here with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Still delving into this, so make no mistake, plenty more to tune into. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On Gateway West at Geronimo Drive exit, an injury accident with medical crew responding. Trowbridge Drive at Gateway North, an accident there is blocking the right lane with police on the scene. I-10 eastbound at Red, multiple vehicles off to the right as you make that exit. 10 eastbound between Cotton and Trowbridge, it's slow with 5-minute delays. And an injury accident slowing traffic Edgemere between the Loop and Tierra Este. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin. Susan, I'm sorry I'm late. Traffic is terrible.
It sure is. But on top of that, gas prices have been skyrocketing. I can't believe how expensive gas has gotten recently.
Prices at the pump are up, but I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Upside app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back every time I buy gas.
And does that actually add up to anything?
I've made around $200.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code GREAT for an extra 25 cents per gallon cash back on your first fill up. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, to PayPal, or any gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code GREAT for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code GREAT for 25 cents per gallon cash back on your first fill up.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
It's important to know what's going on, especially around the world.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at childfund.org.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day.
I don't watch television, so I get all my news from you.
News Radio 690 KTSM. There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com. News on the hour and the hat. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. President Biden will be addressing the American people about threats to democracy in a speech tonight in Philadelphia. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters Biden's primetime address is not a political speech. Former President Trump's request for a special master to review documents seized from his Florida estate will have to wait. The judge in the case won't make a ruling today after a hearing was held on the matter. U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon said she would enter a written order with no hint at a timeline. The White House is preparing for tomorrow's release of the August jobs report. July's job figures were much stronger than expected.
We won't see those 600,000 numbers that we have seen for some time, and that number is going to cool.
Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters the overall economy is strong. She said White House economists believe the economy is transitioning from last year's strong post-COVID burst. One U.S. senator is making a plea after returning from Ukraine. Jack Crumley reports.
Outgoing Ohio Senator Rob Portman says the international community needs to pressure Russia to stop using a nuclear plant in Ukraine for military purposes. The Cincinnati area Republican returned from Ukraine with Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota on Wednesday. While in Kyiv, they met with Ukraine's president and senior leaders to talk about the dangers of the shelling near Europe's largest nuclear power plant still being used to power the country.
The market is kicking off the month of September with a mixed finish. The Dow Jones Industrial Average recovered and finished higher after being down almost 300 points in today's session. However, all three major indexes are slated to finish the week lower. At the closing bell, the Dow gained 145 points to 31,656. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Californians are being told not to charge their electric cars just days after regulators voted for a gas car sales ban. Due to excessive heat in the Golden State, officials are asking residents to avoid using large appliances and charging electric vehicles during peak usage hours of 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. The state just announced a plan to ban sales of new gas-powered cars by 2035 in an effort to curb greenhouse gases. Community leaders in Virginia's capital city are declaring a crisis in the city's public school system. Mark Woolsey has more.
Groups such as the NAACP and the Richmond Democracy Center joined forces to express concerns about last year's SOL scores, noting that passing rates were much higher for white students, as much as 85% on reading, and much lower for students of color. The combined groups made a number of requests and demands, including creative intervention plans for each school tailored to that school's population and demographics. They also want changes to the curriculum and course materials to give teachers more freedom in the classroom.
A scam trying to get quick cash from residents is making its way across parts of Georgia. Liz Kennedy has the details.
Law enforcement in Coffee and Lee counties say scammers are calling unsuspecting Georgians about a fake warrant and claiming people need to pay a fine to avoid arrest. But authorities remind residents they will never ask for money over the phone. If you get a suspicious call or text, you're asked to reach out to your local police department or the sheriff's office in order for them to investigate.
Some full-size SUVs are being recalled due to a fan motor issue. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and Ford Motor Company announced the recall for 2015 to 2017 Ford Expeditions and Lincoln Navigators. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance at $1,000 and a trip to our 2022 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Text the nationwide keyword WIN to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's WIN to 200-200.
Keep listening for the next chance to win your way to our iHeartRadio Music Festival, September 23rd and 24th at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Tickets are on sale right now. AXS.com.
Stream it free on the CW app and CWTV.com.
iHeart and Capital One created a free iHeartRadio Music Festival NFT dropping September 19th for 72 hours. Capital One cardholders can get a special NFT unlocking a chance for a trip to next year's festival. Visit iHeartRadio.com/Capital One NFT for rules and details.
This report is sponsored by Dell Technologies.
The Dell Technologies Labor Day event is here. Start a season of productivity with up to 48% off Fostro laptops with 12th gen Intel Core processors. Upgrade by calling 877-ASK-DELL.
Circle K Fuel Day is happening today with 40 cents off each gallon of gas between 4 and 7 p.m. Every participating location will also hand out 500 fuel discount cards for 20 cents off per gallon of gas throughout the month of September. Circle K Fuel Day is all about rewarding you just in time for this Labor Day weekend as a way to thank customers for their loyalty and end this summer on a high note. Find your participating Circle K Fuel Day location at CircleK.com.
The Stuff They Don't Want You to Know podcast delves into popular culture's most persistent mysteries. Now, there's something else that the guys at Stuff They Don't Want You to Know want you to know. They've got a new book coming out. Packed with illustrations, the Stuff They Don't Want You to Know book is written in the same smart conversational style you love hearing on the podcast. Available October 11th. Pre-order now at StuffYouShouldReadBooks.com. or wherever you buy your books.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people chiming in over on those pages, and you can also, of course, do it on the phone line. We do have that open right now. If you want to call in there, you can do so safely anyway. The number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A couple callers on the line there. We'll get to more of those here, but of course, lot of commentary is to be fully expected from you all during the interview here. Again, thank you to, for what it's worth, Ryan Mielke, Director of Public Affairs, and John Law, Chief Strategy Officer with University Medical Center here. One other thing that they did add, and they wanted to make clear that we weren't quite able to get to there, but in our conversations afterwards, that the UMC budget that is upcoming, for which that tax rate was just approved, is about a $1.2 billion budget. And the amount being supported by taxpayers of the general operating budget, not we're talking about the certificate of obligation bond potential there, would be at about $100 million. So this is something we've talked a bit about with, again, our news partners over there at KFOX 14, Estefania Seifert, particularly among them, investigative reporter with them, about the structure of how things cost and are supported over at UMC. And one of the things that I've talked with her about is the fact that the idea of other supporting services is essentially one of the major parts of how UMC ends up doing its operation. So I know some were asking the question here, and we had popped up the question earlier. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find it because a lot of questions were being asked there here. I want to say it was John Brazelton. There we go. Found it here. A government hospital should provide basic services to citizens. Specialty clinics should only be added if local commercial hospitals refuse to provide the treatments here. One other thing they did add on is that technically included under the blanket total project bucket anyway of the cancer care was then wanting to add a bird center, which people are having to transfer out of town here for. But again, some of the conversations we've been having more in the community, and again with some of our news partners, is that essentially the specialty services, the paying services, among other things, are part of how the support happens there, and the analysis of that going on here. But there's a lot more coming from it. And Kathy Codry still taking issue with the $100 million there. Don't necessarily blame you here. Some of the more comments coming in, at least during our break right now. Maria Coleman saying, an El Paso address provided is not proof of residency. I worked in this process for almost 20 years in another state. Many individuals provided the address of friends and relatives. I do believe that Ryan and John there somewhat brought that up, at the very least, that it is a possibility here. Carlos Escobar Lazo that was also asking previously about the care of, migrants, those brought by CBP, etc. here, and does have a follow-up question he would like to get asked, saying, yes, the federal government, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, pays for the bill while they are under custody, but once they're released after being admitted, that means the government doesn't have to pay for it anymore. Then who pays? just to clarify what I think they were talking about is that essentially they're essentially immediately receiving money only while they're in there, that once the services are provided, they bill DHS, Homeland Security, and the federal government for that there, and that there's essentially a set rate at which they can do it. I think you made the comment about we wish it would be more kind of thing there. So I don't think it's solely a while in custody you receive money. I don't think they even receive money while they're with them actually in the facility here. Rather, it's a bill once done kind of situation. I mean, think about the way you and I receive hospital bills, probably a similar-ish. Then again, I'm not a medical billing expert anyway. And Maria Kalman, kind of referring to that there and kind of agreeing with that. Talking about more incarcerated in that way. So I would say a little bit of a different process there. I will agree. At least one more comment I wanted to get to here. Someone had, I'm happy about the mention of El Paso Congresswoman Veronica Escobar as a part of it here. And one comment that I just couldn't quite put up on screen, but Larry Condra saying, tell these dumb bunnies, my word phrase being used there, from UMC, even the 1.8% increase kills fixed income folks. And with all the other taxes we have to pay in this dump town with streets you can't drive on and overpaid school officials here. And John Brazelton adding to that, there are 17 taxing authorities in El Paso County. Each one wants to raise their budget each year in a vacuum without taking into account what everyone else is doing. There's no limits set by anyone. I think that's why, if I'm not misattributing it to you, let me know if I am, the whole idea of the California style, what is it, like Section 13? The idea of there being set limits overall. And the idea of that possibly happening, and we see maybe fights between the entities about who can raise it versus not, it kind of tickles me a little bit. So that's why I'm kind of also doubting it'll happen here, because there's only so much raise that can be done since there's only really one taxing avenue for most of the agencies anyway. Yes, there are technically some excise taxes. And by the way, I wanted to bring up that there is some plans in the works for that. You may have heard some talk about the roughly $28 billion surplus that the state of Texas is looking at. Among other things, Governor Greg Abbott has announced a comprehensive, I want to say roughly over $100 billion Texas transportation plan. So given that we have that Texas legislative session coming up, I would fully expect that will be a major part of the conversation. Juan Carlos responded back saying, yes, the bill to DHS is only while they are under custody. After release, the patient is responsible for the bill here. I mean, essentially, once outside of the care, yeah, they would be responsible for their own things here. So, I mean, finer points we could bring up here, but let's get to that phone line here for those ways. Again, the number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
Ha! You got to start calling me Oracle Frankie or Nostradamus Frankie, because I told you about a couple of weeks ago this was going to happen, and it is. And I bring to your attention this whole Texas rule, Senate Bill 797 something, where all K through 12 schools have got to have In God We Trust in a nice, beautiful little frame, right? Okay, guess what happened? Up there in Dallas-Fort Worth, some guy came in and said, hey, okay, In God We Trust in Arabic, but it had the Texas flag, had the United States flag, and a beautiful sign, and a girl did the same thing with rainbows. And you know what that school board said? Oh, no. We have enough of these things. I'm telling you, guaranteed, this is going to the Supreme Court. This is totally against the what do you call that thing? The First Amendment of the United States, freedom of religion, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. I knew this was going to happen. I am now forever known as Oracle Messia Frankie. What do you think of that?
As this happens often in life, good luck setting your own nickname here. But yeah, very, very aware of what you're talking about there, was specifically Texas State Senator Brian Hughes sending a letter to the Texas Education Agency clarifying his legislation, he being one of the major sponsors of it there, saying that it must be in English, though, of course, the point being made by those submitting those signs with the phrase, In God We Trust, but written in Arabic, disputing that. So as I said at the time, you might recall as well, that I would fully expect that this could end up at the Supreme Court, even if the law, in the way it is couched here, because it's kind of this Byzantine process. You have to make the sign, donate it to the school district, and then we're required to put it up here, as opposed to, say, just requiring the school districts to display it here, was kind of seeming to me, my kind of reading between the lines, couched in such a way to make it so that it would try to avoid such challenges. But I mean, best laid plans and all, and not even though I think this is the best laid one itself here, it would still very, very, very much expect that this will probably end up before the Supreme Court. Absolutely.
Well, no question about it. I can't believe it. With everything else going wrong in the world, I mean, for the most part, this, that, whatever, depending on to whom you're listening to. But with all the stuff going on, and you got to worry about in God we trust in school, and if you don't do this, you're a creep or something. What? This is insanity. It's just absolutely unbelievable. That's my comment.
All right. Well, thank you for the point in the comment. You have a good one there.
All right.
I mean, again, as much as displaying of statements and such here, I mean, really, I got to imagine that bringing in if we want to go into the specifics about the First Amendment there, specifically the whole idea of the establishment clause of the First Amendment, making no law respecting an establishment of religion. I'm sure there'll be plenty of arguments about that kind of a thing, but I mean, this is the kind of door that opens when you start doing that here. So I'm not saying I'm opposed to the phrase by any means. It is, of course, the national model of the United States here, but let's just say you reap what you sow sometimes. So I'm not surprised that these kind of challenges have come up there. And some other attempts at the nickname coming up there in the comments. Again, comments over on the social media pages. And again, those calls on the line, of course, here, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. I think we got time for one more here. I do believe we have Raul in the Northeast on the line here with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Yeah, most of your Facebook posters and callers love to hate me. And I'm pretty sure I get called out more than anyone else on your show. And that reminds me of a quote that says, "The measure of a man is not only the company he keeps, but the enemies he makes." Most of your Facebook posters and callers would love to have you cancel me. And they can't stand criticism of their dear leader, Donald Trump. So they claim I have Trump derangement syndrome for my review of Trump's behavior, scandals, and bad news. Well, I think those Trump supporters have what I call Trump mania, having been Trump with Trumpery, Trumpism, and contracting Trump mania. And they got that Trump mania. Before they had that, they had ODD, what I call Obama derangement disorder. 30% of Americans who are racist are part of Trump's base went mad when Obama became president. And they believed Trump's lie that Obama wasn't born in the United States. And Trump became the #1 birther lie proponent. That was racist. His niece and his former personal attorney say Trump is a racist. And that birther lie increased the threat to Obama and his family's lives. Anyway, the Republicans, before they got Obama derangement disorder, they were T-tards, upset over the government bailing out Wall Street and the banksters and being all in on global trade. Well, that's who the Republican Party has always been. Corporate America's purchased politicians. And before the Republicans became teabaggers, they had gotten a condition that I called Bushnesia, kind of like amnesia, forgetting all about the failed Bush #2 presidency with its great recession caused by his and the Republicans' deregulation and lack of supervision over the financial services industry, and the cost of his stupid invasion and occupation of Iraq. Back then, Republicans were all in and stayed the course with Bush #2 and his stupid war. But then they completely blew him off, not even inviting him to their presidential convention. So some of your posters and callers claim that Trump lives rent-free in my head. Well, you know what? Every president has occupied my attention and time because, after all, they are the heads of the world's wealthiest and most powerful nation and can have a great amount of effect on Americans' lives. And I am a student of current events and politics, history, business, and philosophy. And I became alienated from the government way before these guys on your show who listen with the two political parties when I was of draft age during the Vietnam War, which I opposed, as did many Americans. And LBJ prosecuted the Vietnam War. So he turned me off to the Democrats until George McGovern. And I hated Nixon, and I thought Reagan sucked bad with his supply-side trickle-down economics that caused a shrinking and stagnation of America's middle class. And I supported Jesse Jackson and Jerry Brown's campaigns. But progressives haven't had too much traction in the Democratic Party. And I became a political independent, having voted more times for third-party candidates or not voted at all. than for voting for Democratic presidential candidates. I was one of 2 delegates from El Paso for Ross Perot's party, the Reform Party. I was a local delegate and spokesperson for one of my longtime heroes, Ralph Nader, when he ran as the Green Party's presidential candidate.
Okay.
I have seen the Republican Party abandon their previously professed principles and claims that character counts, that morality matters, and that they're value voters by devolving into the Trump-Publican Party, essentially a cult, and supporting the most corrupt, immoral, unprincipled, opportunistic Trump, as close as one can get to being a devil. He ripped off my hometown for $600,000, and his racist, xenophobic rhetoric incited and ignited a Trump terrorist that killed 23 people in El Paso.
And as much as we have disagreed on that finer point here, I get what you're saying, that you're caring about current events and policies and things like that, but that doesn't exactly answer the question being brought about the free real estate. It's free real estate going on in the head there, because when we talk about it here in such a way, the fact that this is being brought up as something that is not the current president, among other things, like, yes, I am very concerned with any sitting president, what they are doing, what their issues are, what their policies are, their successes, failures, issues, what's causing me personally, etc. There's not much disagreement on there. Any president is definitely up for debate, discussion, and disagreement more than a little bit. But I think it's the fact of the matter is that, again, as we kind of said yesterday, even we were doing so well right up until it came up here. Talking about a current president's policies is something that, well, we do not exactly more often than not, but a good chunk of the time. Here, we did it during the Trump administration. We're now doing it during the Biden administration, but I guess it's the callback and the constant review of your feelings about the previous president here. Sure, if he comes up as a candidate again, he will, of course, be able to be comment on that. Will be focused, at least for my part, mostly on the policies, as we try to here, because I don't like cults of personality, even if it's a decrying someone else's cult of personality, just because I don't find it productive. And I think it's that part that people are finding most there, but also the whole you're getting pretty much rephrasing in a different way, the whole basket of deplorables argument here. And sure, there's plenty of awful behavior out here that I find in no way supporting here. But then when you paint with that broad brush and saying that since it's a subset, therefore everyone must sign on with it here, I got to wonder about the back end of that thought process here. If I say enough about someone that I don't like, someone else, and calling them out and calling them names and things like that, the people who agree with that person will obviously eventually agree with me. That's not how this works. So if you're really wanting to, in the sum total, make it to a point where you are saying that, yes, these ideas are wrong and here's why you should agree with me, doing it by insulting people, I guess I don't quite get the logic there. In any case, more, flies, more, bees with honey than with something else, part of the analogy here. But even just then, I think you're maybe making your case not as well, or really going more into kind of punitive nature of it, which is definitely not something that I'm particularly interested in entertaining on this program here. So thank you for the point of the call, for what it's worth anyway. Have a good one there. That's definitely going to take us through that next break of the hour here right now. If you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. And we'll take those calls and comments here throughout the rest of the hour, as we do a lot more coming on over on the social media. Get to those as well. But again, the number one more time, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Medical crews on the scene of an injury accident, Gateway West at Geronimo Drive, slowing traffic. Gateway South at East Yandell, a vehicle is blocking the right lane, stay to the left. Trowbridge Drive at Gateway, an earlier crash is in the process of being cleared. Take Montana Avenue or Reynolds to get around it. I-10 eastbound between Artcraft and the 54 Patriot, it's slow with 8-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by The Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
What does the political landscape look like heading into the midterm elections? We're going to ask Robert Kahali of the Trafalgar Group, who has a history of getting things right. Don't miss The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday and throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
New on Curiosity Stream. After 50 years,
One small step for man.
we're going back with NASA's Artemis program. We're sending humans to the moon and beyond on Artemis Return to the Moon. Plus, they're impassioned, they're inventive, they're teenagers.
Oh my God.
New research suggests our impulsive teen years may be key to humanity's success on surviving the teenage brain. Watch now on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
Parents, are you tired of helping put your kids' shoes on? They're squirming, watching cartoons, anything but helping. Luckily, it's Skechers to the rescue. Introducing new hands-free Skechers slip-ins. Footwear you can just get your kids to step into and their shoes are on. You don't need to bend over. You don't need to sit on the floor and try to wrangle them on. Actually, you don't even have to touch them. With Skechers slip-ins, they just step in and go. Plus, they're so easy, they could be the first shoes your kids can put on by themselves. And Skechers slip-ins are great for older kids too. They're quick, easy, and fun. The secret is a unique comfort pillow in the heel that helps your child's foot slide securely into place and cradle it in comfort. Plus, they're available in all types of Skechers styles with and without laces. And most are machine washable, so you can keep them looking newer longer. Get Skechers slip-ins, the "Where have you been all my life" shoes for your kids or for mom and dad today. Find Skechers slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish shoes are sold.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers later. Learn more at cancer.org/dreambig.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. We mention all of those, not because by any means do you have to memorize them, get them tattooed on your thigh, or anything like that. Just know that it's the best way for you to chime in throughout the show. We have a lot of comments coming in there, such as Ion Grimm, appreciating a bit of the response there. We do try to have some kind of core-ish values, at least that I try to espouse anyway. And of course, I do mention that we take those comments on all those places if we're up there. And a comment did come in yesterday. Ronald Armstrong at Ronald Armstrong 18 over on Twitter saying on the whole enablement idea, saying, quote, "You enable these quacks, he got to you, we can all tell." You talk to everyone, all of the audience? That's amazing. How did you get a hold of them all? Because the whole ratings thing is more of kind of like a statistical analysis. So if you got a hold of everyone that listens to the show, I would love to be able to speak to that assembled group you have out there. Yes, I am being sarcastic, as I am known to be here, because sure, if that's your assumption here, but I would say some of the people commenting out there may not totally be agreement with you, so I have a reason to believe you didn't speak with anyone here. But more specifically, there's a difference between, again, we do a different thing on this show than most other programming here, in that I don't expect you to agree with me. I have no intention for you to agree with me with what I'm talking about here in any certain way, but I do have some certain core principles and policies in place with how we run the show, but also I try to kind of be consistent with about again, freedom of speech, opportunity of response, and talking about things. Because again, as I said yesterday, the response to the idea of oppression, loss of rights, etc., is not further loss of rights in any direction. It's more freedom. And we will continue to, of course, keep doing that here. You make your own choices on it here, but if you're interested in freedom, well, let's see if you're actually living your values, I suppose. To that point, let's get back to the phone lines here. The number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have, I got the list up here correctly, we do have Tom coming in from Otero County here right now. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Hi there, Andrew.
Hey there, what's on your mind?
Democrats control all three branches of government. You got a great show, but the daily dose of Frank and Raul,
Mhm.
It's like being back in the Army and listen to the Hanoi Hannah on the radio every day. The daily rant is just, I don't know. If things are so great, why do they have to, you know what I'm saying?
I understand exactly what you're saying here, and particularly on the whole Hanoi Hannah thing. I get your allusion there, talking about during the Vietnam War here. But the thing I love about this format and why I've chosen to do it, all opposed to the many, many others that this kind of could happen and we could be doing it on, including just a live stream, is the fact that response is available to it. Of course, you couldn't unless you had a powerful enough signal and a jammer or transmitter on your own to get on and say exactly to Hannah, hey, I disagree with you for these reasons. We can do so here, which is why we have the format that we have and giving you opportunity yourself to say things like this. But to your larger point here, and just as one kind of technical disagreement with you, wouldn't say that Democrats control the judiciary at this moment, given the makeup of the Supreme Court here. But there are, of course, attempts being made along those lines when we've been talking about the expand the court efforts along that way. So, I mean, finer point to be made there. But this is why debates on these things also do matter to me.
And by the way, Hannah actually passed away at the age of 87.
Really? I'd missed that one, but interesting point there. Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one.
Okay, thanks.
All right, bye-bye there. All right, try to squeeze in one more here real quick before we restart the next we get that next break, actually. Let's go ahead and we have Stephen on the east side here with us right now. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Andrew. I just want to agree with you on a couple of things. I mean, there was a caller yesterday and has the sentiment that maybe some people shouldn't call or some people shouldn't talk. And I've expressed before, I think it's okay to listen to other people with other points of view talk. I think our beef more with Raul is that, we can sit here and debunk one by one each of his talking points, and I've done many of them before.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't change anything because he'll just go repeat the same talking point 3 times again the same week. So that's what's getting old. It's not like we're scared that he's got these great points of view and he's really smart and he's going to make hurt our viewpoints in any way. He just doesn't have what it takes or the truth on his side to be actually able to put forward something that's substantive. So it's not that, it's just a repetitive nature, and we can debunk something and need you to come back the next day and say the exact same thing again. And I think the issue also is that if we were to take the same exact policy from a different politician, and if it was Trump doing it, it seems like he would hate that just because Trump did it. For example, standing up to China, trying to bring manufacturing to the United States. Those are kinds of things that I think Raul would try to agree with, but you will never hear him say it. I also think that people and Republicans do care about morality, and they do care about the candidate and if they're a good person or not. But sometimes, you've got a binary choice. And we had Mitt Romney on the Republican side, one of the most milquetoast, nicest, cleanest candidates you could ever come up with. And of course, Democrats demonized him. I think it was Biden who said that Mitt Romney was going to put black people back in chains. I mean, that's just how the Democrat Party works. They're just going to demonize whoever's on the other side rather than focus on policies that are going to actually affect our lives and make our lives better. That's one of the contentions that we have against the Democratic side is rather than focus on the policy, they focus on demonizing the individuals. And like you said, taking something like some extremist and painting the whole entire Republican Party that way. That would be like me saying that all Democrats are basically Antifa communists. And that's not a fair thing to do to the Democrat side. I wouldn't do that. I'm not that ignorant and childish to paint people with such a brush that way. So, those are kind of the beefs with Raul and just the tactics that he seems to have. It's not how adults have a conversation. I know he's got some kind of jaded religious childhood issues that are causing him to act that way. So, but I still think it's okay for people to call, and you're allowing them to speak. I think it's good for us to know there's people out there like that. And you may have to realize, and we all need to realize that sometimes there are people like that. and they end up in power, and they may be in the DOJ or the FBI and have axes to grind and basically have Raul in the Department of Justice. I mean, you can imagine what kind of someone with power could do in that situation. And you don't want the government to have, or people in power to be ideologically bound like people like him. So we don't want to give people in government too much power, so they don't abuse that power.
I will fully agree with that idea there. And so I guess if I have a foible, it's that I may be giving more leash than is necessary, but I truly do believe in the idea, both in government and in personal life. When in doubt, err on the side of liberty. So if I will fully agree that, yeah, repetitiveness is, I don't care really what the subject is. If we get it every day, that's why, again, I hope against hope that we will have interesting, unique, and different points brought up every day, but maybe I give a little bit too much leeway in exploring or seeing if that's actually happening or not. But well, we're always trying to improve here. But again, we try to do the things we do for the larger purpose of showing that debate does happen and can happen in positive ways, even if it doesn't always happen that way.
Yep. I'm okay with that. I think you do a good job. Thanks.
Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there. I appreciate it. Again, if you want to get on the line, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Taking that next break right now. Getting with more of those calls in line and everything we do at this point during the show. After this break, here with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Miraca Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. A magistrate judge in El Paso County has dismissed an additional 142 criminal cases. The cases were dismissed before 11 this morning at the referral court at the county courthouse. The cases dismissed are part of the 616 criminal cases filed to be dismissed last week by public defender Kelly Childress. The cases range from driving under the influence, possession of marijuana, and assault. KFOX 14 obtained the court docket that included a case involving an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon charge, and the other suspect was charged with terroristic threat causing fear of serious bodily injury, both dismissed. And state authorities stopped the human smuggling attempt along I-10 yesterday morning. The Texas Department of Public Safety, working Operation Lone Star, tried to stop the speeding driver along I-10 near the Piedras exit just before 7 a.m. When the van did pull over, several people ran from the vehicle, including the driver. Authorities were able to capture the driver and 10 migrants in the country illegally. I'm Miraca Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
El Paso freeway's looking pretty good right now. No major collisions, just some slowing on the I-10 eastbound between the Prospect, Wyoming downtown exits past the 54 Patriot to Trowbridge. 7-minute delays. A vehicle in the right lane, stayed to the left, Gateway Boulevard southbound at East Yandell Drive. And a crash reported Lomaland at Traywood Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
After a few cloudy days with on and off rain, a change in our weather pattern will bring slightly drier days. Expect a mostly cloudy sky tonight with a few isolated showers and cooler overnight lows as they drop into the middle to upper 60s by tomorrow morning. Coming up tonight, we'll take a look at the weekend forecast. Plus, we'll talk about the return of 90-degree temperatures. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
We reached the tipping point this week. Big news regarding global money and energy just came out, and you better get ready. I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. So listen to the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is the leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screenforlife for more information.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know how important it is to be confident in all of life's close-up moments.
And bad breath can rob you of your confidence.
Yeah, it can. Whenever I'm rubbing elbows with celebrities or friends or just chilling at home, I got to make sure I have the confidence that comes with Smart Mouth mouthwash.
Smart Mouth is clinically proven to eliminate and prevent bad breath for 24 hours with just 2 rinses a day.
Get to your favorite retailer right now for that kind of better together confidence.
Find Smart Mouth at your favorite retailer or at smartmouth.com/radio.
It can happen easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Summer is winding down, but business needs keep ramping up. Check out Indeed, the all-in-one hiring solution that helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply. This report is sponsored by Indeed.com.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media sites, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv, either under Andrew J. Polk or Talk El Paso. Pretty much all of those here. A lot of comments coming in here about conversation and debate and the many facets of it here, but I guess this is another reason why repetition is a bad thing, as much as I also support people exploring those subjects on their own and even bringing it up what they disagree with. Sean Gardner putting kind of case in point here, saying, tune in late today. I'm assuming the subject for today is Raul, at least that's what it's sounding like so far. So, again, point well taken here that when we get bogged down in such issue, we lose the focus on the other things we're talking about here today. Well, we are major subject, at least guests on today here from UMC, talking about the many facets as they see it and the information they're putting out on that whole bond issue, their response to some of the questions y'all have been bringing up, as well as the petitions and all things like that. So that's more of our subject for today, but also a bunch of other things that we are discussing here as well, including the next incident of bailouts, I guess the best technical term or his closest term you think of to it happening. Looks like it was definitely I-10 near Piedras, and looks like they pulled over near kind of where it's near Concordia, it looked like there, and a whole lot of those issues. Plus, there's more that we'll see if we can get to here when it comes to more of those case dismissals of the roughly 600 being sought this week anyway by the local public defender's office, and how the district attorney's office is responding to that, as well as a whole lot more. We got state level stuff that we'll try to squeeze in here, but in any case, we'll get back to those phone lines right now. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have, if I get my list up here, we do have Jerry on the northwest side of town here with us right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for enabling me to have a free speech here, Andrew.
Sure thing. Appreciate it. What's on your mind?
Okie dokie. Well, anyway, I understand that there's going to be a big speech tonight at 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, our time.
Correct.
I'm going to make a few predictions here.
Okay.
I'm going to predict that he's not going to be a uniter like he claimed he wanted to be when he ran for office, but he's going to be a divider. He is going to be trying to divide those of us that did support Donald Trump, even though he was not my first choice. I like Ted Cruz better than I liked Donald Trump, and I think Ted Cruz would have been a good president too, but Ted Cruz also would have been run across the coals. Maybe not as bad as Donald Trump, okay, but they don't want the powers to be in Washington have this thing that they do where they do they destroy a person's record and their personality. Personal destruction, I think, is what President Bush called it, second Bush. I believe that's what he called it. The politics of personal destruction. I believe that's what he called it. But anyway, I'm going to predict that he's going to try to take away some of our rights, especially our Second Amendment rights. And when you take away your Second Amendment rights, every other right is included in that. Okay, and also going to predict that, yes, he is going to try to divide us. He's going to say that people that are MAGA, that want the United States to do good and to be strong and to have a good economy and to have good energy sources, not free energy, energy that is readily available and easy to get to and does not cost a lot, I think he's going to try to make us all into little demons. And we're not demons. We care about this nation. In fact, a lot of us signed this little contract with the military, and it says we defend the Constitution of the United States against foreign and domestic enemies. But he's going to try to make us a domestic enemy. So just be aware of that out there, El Paso, because he's not a leader that will unite. The only thing that he can do is destroy. So just understand that when he's talking about you because you voted for Donald Trump or you supported him, that only means that he does not have the ability to do what Donald Trump can do, which is unite people. Because like I said, I didn't vote for Donald Trump first off in the primary election. I voted for Ted Cruz. I voted for Donald Trump in the general because I voted against Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton is so much like Raul in the Northeast. Just hate. And she would have tried to destroy this nation also. But we had a reprieve. Thank God Almighty that we did. Okay? But that's what I'm going to make a prediction on. Thank you for allowing me to elaborate.
Absolutely. Again, one of the many things we're here for. Appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there. All right. Again, do appreciate it sincerely here. And I do know, including from our national reporting concerns here and our newswires coming into the newsroom almost as of this hour, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy ripping President Biden for recent comments aimed at former President Trump and his GOP supporters. Speaking in Pennsylvania, McCarthy called on Biden to apologize for comparing Trump's philosophy to, quote, semi-fascism, end quote, saying that the president has chosen to, quote, divide, demean, and disparage, end quote, fellow Americans. Comments came ahead of Biden's primetime speech in Philadelphia Tuesday, and a lot of expectation, many national news outfits reporting on that, about expecting it to be a dark address. New York Times saying, using a primetime address to define the midterm elections as a, quote, battle for the soul of the nation. So given that we are on the cusp of Friday, yes, I fully expect that speech and the outcome of it will be probably one of the major parts of our talk tomorrow here, but we'll see what happens here. Eric von Holstein-Rathlow commenting over on the Facebook here. I was a staunch Ted Cruz supporter and voted for him in the primaries. He would have made a great president, but I don't think he would have won against Clinton here. I mean, hindsight 2020 and kind of, armchair quarterbacking these situations is interesting, and I've been guilty of it more than a couple of times, wondering what would have happened. I would have been most interested, not even with it being a Clinton versus anyone else matchup, but the one that I would have been most interested to see, at least the one I think about most often, would have been a Sanders versus Trump election here. That's the one I wonder how that one would have turned out, or what the discussions coming out of it more accurately would have been here. But let's get to at least one more call on the line here before we hit that next break and tell you what we got coming up for you here. We have Tony on the west side here with us right now. Tony, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. Real quick, because yesterday I didn't do a very good job. I was driving and so forth. I just want to give a little more clarity to what's happening ethic-wise at our schools. And I want to give kudos to that gentleman who called right before me, encouraging us to go to the school district meetings. It is very important. I'll try to go. And he mentioned 1400 Stanton Avenue, I believe. We really do need to go to the school board meetings. Now, this is what happened. And I know some of this is going to sound like old news, but please listen, connect the dots, okay? Connect the dots. And I could wait till tomorrow to do this. But anyway, in reference to the school meetings and stuff, when we got rid of the 10 Commandments and prayer and all that stuff, because it was too religious, yada, yada, yada. So then they brought in something called Stop Bullying. The sheriff was behind it, no more bullying. And under the umbrella of no more bullying, and what happened is they started allowing certain behavior with kids, meaning boys with boys being intimate, girls with girls being intimate, and the teacher not stopping them in the hall and stuff like that. They started exposing our children to adult sexual pictures and education under the umbrella of health. If all you parents listening to me, go visit your schools and look at their health books. Some of it is borderline pornography. Go visit the library. Look at the curriculum for health, the curriculum for the well, again, the library. And then they've got men, some not here in Texas yet, but it's coming. If it's not here already, I know it's California, New York, it is, that men dressed up as women coming in to read Bible stories. I'm sorry, reading stories, certainly not Bible stories, to the kids in the library of the school, dressed as women, men, some of them pedophiles. And all this because we get rid of what we think is too boring. We don't want religion. We don't like Jesus. We don't like the Ten Commandments. But nature will not allow a void. So you get rid of biblical standards, God will not be mocked. That's what your children are going to be exposed to. Different sexual experimentation at a young age. There's an epidemic right now of young people being surgically removed, their genitals and stuff, minors and things. A lot of things going on with sexual transsex and transgender and all that stuff's coming in to take over. Why? Because we were bored with the Ten Commandments and God and so forth. Thank you for letting me do this, Andrew. I'll call tomorrow. God bless.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call. You have a good one there as well. And if anyone's wondering why we're talking about tomorrow here a little bit, is that, yes, Free for All Friday is very much looming at this point, and I think this will be again, given the setup here we got going on right now, a very spicy one, just as a preference and preface and reminder here, particularly if you're going to call in there, keep it clean. We're not trying to get any fines or fees going on here. We also have systems in place to make sure that kind of language can't go through, so don't think that we're going to have a good attempt at trying it here. In any case, to the idea of morality, again, I don't particularly care where anyone gets the morality, as long as we can all agree on some central standards. There is a quote from Boondock Saints I'm not going to bring up here, but that comes to mind as part of here. I won't say it here anyway, because the fact of the idea there being certain standards of conduct and standards of society that we can all agree on regardless of it. Again, 10 Commandments, Christianity, you're referring to there, very good source of them, and a good source for particularly a lot of people in our area. But the idea of removing it up there, I mean, the whole nature abhors a vacuum, as you're also referring to there. I think the idea that I keep running into, particularly when it comes to the schools here, minus all the other things you're talking about here, I wouldn't necessarily connect the idea of homosexuality with the Stop Bullying campaigns here. That's a link I'm not quite sure I'm following you on. But the real idea about should we treat people well with respect here, don't be a jerk, is a very simple line that I find myself living by for the most part here. And I expect certain, golden rule, or the more like the platinum rule here, treat others as they want to be treated, as a very kind of, as much as we deal with very complex subjects on this show and in life, that's one of those kind of core things that I find myself falling back on more often than not, of how should I decide how to interact in any particular situation. Now, there's a whole lot of fraught ideas out there, including some of the ones you brought up just there. But essentially, when it comes down to it, I look at what are the impacts, what is the harm being caused, or is there one, or is it none of my business? And some of the things happening with like other adults doing things in their own lives and house, I end up not being that concerned with. Though I will say, when we start talking about minors and things like that, I get a little bit more concerned. And a lot of the activities that you've described there would not be interested in seeing my own family involved in, but also the fact of the focusing on the family and having those values instilled and inculcated within your own household. I think for way too many people, part of this debate on schools has come down to the fact that nothing much else is happening. I mean, if you are relying on any institution, any single institution, be it, and I do mean any institution, to be the sole source of all morals, teaching, everything in life, the whole no man is an island, no organization or entity is an island either. So whether it be the government, whether it be a school, whether it be any club, group, organization, etc., being the only way you're getting this, you're signing up for all of that comes with it, and that's not something I'd find myself comfortable with in my own personal life there. So got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we're going to close out the show. Tell we got coming up for you, particularly in the next week, and a whole lot more. So stay tuned. We'll talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. More of those comments, squeezing it what we can, and more after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
El Paso freeway's looking pretty good right now. No major collisions, just some slowing on the I-10 eastbound between the Prospect, Wyoming downtown exits past the 54 Patriot to Trowbridge. 7-minute delays. A vehicle in the right lane stayed to the left Gateway Boulevard southbound at East Yandell Drive. And a crash reported Lomaland at Traywood Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples Print and Marketing Services help small businesses create bold signs to make big impressions. Right now, get $10 off custom printed signs, banners, and posters when you spend $50 or more. Offer ends 10/1. Visit staples.com/thisisyoursign for details. This is your sign to print big at Staples.
You wash your hands and brush your teeth, but what about your nose? How do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage pulls saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, dirt, and germs, and it's why nose cleaning is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. People try Navage for lots of reasons: sinusitis, allergies, snoring, things that make it hard to breathe through your nose. But over time, they also find that cleaning their nose makes them feel better, a lot better. Nearly 3 million Navage users have written more than 100,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, saying things like, best product I've ever used, and amazing, I love my Navage. That's because Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less. But the biggest payoff is improved health. Here's the key point. Navage is good personal hygiene, and it's going to help you stay healthier. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, Target, and online. Navage, Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Are you one of those people who thinks it's okay to drive stoned? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit? It's no big deal, right? Wrong. The truth is, your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
Hey, I got a question for you. You hate bending over to put on your shoes? Wish you could just put them on standing or sitting without ever having to touch them? If so, then I have the shoe for you. Introducing new hands-free Skechers Slip-ins. With new Skechers Slip-ins, you just step in and off you go. You don't even need to lace up. So how do Skechers Slip-ins work? Well, there's a special smooth comfort pillow in the heel that helps your foot slide right into place. So just step in them and go. Find new hands-free Skechers Slip-ins for the whole family at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
I'll never forget the call that my only son had been killed instantly by a distracted driver on her cell phone. Please hang up and drive.
Heads up, Texas. Using your phone behind the wheel can be deadly. Talk, text, crash. Brought to you by TxDOT.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Doing our best to get to as much as we can, as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. We're basically out of time here for this show here, so just about a couple things we're working on for you. More response from the city. Have an invitation out here that we're working on some scheduling on to talk further with at least one of the deputy city managers about the city's migrant response, what's going on with it, and what some of the potentials there are. So stay tuned for that. Also, some more information about some September 11th memorial events that are coming up here. We'll be talking about that next week. And, of course, a little bit further on, talking with our news partners there and other community reporting efforts. So a lot more to come up for you there, and a lot of commentary and expectation for this speech tonight. Some more, a little bit less tongue-in-cheek, shall we say here. So, again, we'll, of course, have more. Again, maybe not totally break that down tomorrow, but I'm sure we'll have a lot of calls on it. So maybe we'll have some clips ready for you all, that kind of thing. Otherwise, Free For All Friday will be on deck for us there, and that means we'll be taking your comments and calls throughout both hours of the show tomorrow. But in the meantime, that'll do it for us here today. Want you all to stay safe out there, look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
El Paso police are working an accident eastbound Trans Mountain at North Wrestler Drive, Memorial Highway northbound at Vista del Sol. There's a truck that's blocking the right shoulder. An accident reported Kenworthy north of Fairbanks Drive, and police are on the scene of an accident Loma Land at Traywood. Take Montwood or Yarborough as your alternates there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hello?
Mike, this is Norma Jean at Sergio Lewis Body Shop near the airport. Have you seen Sergio?
I'm expecting him in a few minutes to cut a new commercial.
I'm really worried about him, Mike. He really believes he's a poet. It's gone to his head.
There's plenty of room up there. Anyways, his poetry isn't that bad.
Will you please have him call the shop?
Sure, Norma.
That's Norma Jean, Mike. Gotta go.
Yee, she's feisty. Hey, Sergio, there you are.
Hey, Mike, I have this great new poem. Check this out, man. Sometimes even our darkest moments are enlightening.
Hey, what's so funny, man? Nothing, Sergio, really. By the way, Norma Jean called. Really? What did she want? Oh, she was just telling me what a big fan she is of your poetry, Sergio. Sergio Lewis Body Shop at 3800 Admiral near the airport, where it's the customer's choice, not the insurance company's, and there's a lifetime warranty on all collision repair. 593-0191.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead.